Good morning, class. How are you? How did you spend the Holy Week? I hope you took the time to reflect and remember the love of our Lord for us as He sacrificed Himself to pay for our sins. Well, enough for that, and let me introduce our topic for today, which is communication. But before that, let me enumerate the objectives that we must meet after the discussion ends. Our objectives for today are: first, define communication. Second, define interpersonal communication. Third, enumerate characteristics of good interpersonal communication. And lastly, employ strategies for effective communication. Like what I said earlier, our topic for today is all about communication. But let me define first what is communication. It is a process of sharing and conveying messages or information from one person to another by speech, signals, writing, or behavior. So basically, communication is the act of transferring information from one place, person, or group to another. And every communication involves at least one sender, a message, and a recipient. But communication is more than simply the transmission of information. The term requires an element of success in transmitting or imparting a message, whether information, ideas, or emotions. As I mentioned just a while ago, communication requires an element of success in transmitting information, and we could achieve that when both the sender and receiver understood each other's message and feedback. But when can we say communication is unsuccessful? That is when the transmission of the message from sender to recipient is affected by a huge range of things. These include our emotions, the cultural situation, the medium used to communicate, and even our location. Communication has many types, and those are interpersonal, group, and mass communication. But today, we will focus on interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is the ongoing and ever-changing process that occurs when you interact with another person. This style of communication encompasses our daily interactions, whether it is formal or casual, which can occur any place. There is also a degree of proximity between the sender and the receiver, who may be able to see each other closely, monitor facial expressions, postures, gestures, body language, and so on, or deduce them from tone and expressions when they communicate without seeing each other, for example over the phone. The sender and receiver roles become interchangeable in interpersonal communication. Many sensory channels are utilized, and feedback is instant. It allows you to express yourself more clearly and persuade or motivate another individual than any other way of communication. Interpersonal communication can take many forms. First is verbal communication. It is a way of transmitting messages in words, for example, conversations, interviews, debates, lectures, and seminars. And this can be done face-to-face, by telephone, radio, or television, and other media. While for nonverbal communication, it is the transmission of messages or signals through a nonverbal platform, such as eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, posture, and body language. It also includes the use of social cues, distance and physical environments, appearance, voice, and touch. And for our last one is the body language, which is one of the examples on nonverbal. It is about the performance by nodding of our heads, sign language, leaning in while speaking or listening, standing straight with shoulders back, rubbing hands together, held tilted to one side, and cross arms. Now let's move on to strategies for effective communication. First, prepare by asking yourself. And the questions that we could ask to ourselves are: why am I choosing to do or say this? Second, am I confusing my personal feelings with my objectivity? Third, if this were to become public, would I be comfortable with my actions? These questions could help us ponder if our message is appropriate to transmit and if this will benefit us or just make things worse. Asking these questions could also help us weigh our personal intention or purpose in communication. The second strategy is listen effectively. Let's avoid jumping to conclusions and making premature judgments, agreements, comparisons, or criticisms. Remember that in interpersonal communication, you are hearing only one side of a story. And if you wish to speak with others, let's ask for permission so you will not appear rude to them. All while listening, gather information and emphasize facts. And do not also try to solve the problem until facts on all sides are available. The next one is ask yourself. This ask yourself is different with the first strategy because in this part, while the communication is ongoing, we could now notice if the other party has a different perspective from us. If so, the next thing to do will either be asking ourselves how we could understand their point or stand, or what kind of data must be presented to us that will make our minds change. We could also ask ourselves during the communication if there will be any way for you and the other speaker to come on the same page. Second to the last strategy for effective communication is be respectful. Being respectful is the most essential part of communication and how we could be respectful. That is when we listen carefully and respond kindly to others, well, even if we disagree with them. Aside from that, let us not embarrass others, especially in public, and do not ever misdirect our anger to the person who we are talking to. And if we successfully respect one another in communication, this will help us express our opinions and thoughts, understand each other's perspective, build strong relationships, and solve problems together. The last strategy to have an effective communication is to act thoughtfully and carefully. Don't react. This means that until the person whom you are talking to are still speaking, do not react immediately. You did have to agree or disagree to any course of action on the spot, and it might be wiser and safer to wait before he or she finishes talking. Also, while he or she is talking to you, mind our facial expressions and body language because they could misinterpret us. To avoid that, listen first attentively and keep a record of the conversation. And once they stop talking, we could now react and give our feedback professionally.
Good day, class. To assess you guys about what Ma'am Kate discussed, let's have a checkpoint. You will just match the right column into the left column if you think they are related or compatible to each other. So for number 1, positive attitude is related to you can do it. That's correct because saying this phrase is you are implying a positive environment that he or she can do on what she's doing. So for the number 2, verbal. Okay, verbal is related to speech. That's correct because under verbal communication, there's a speech. So for the number 3, we have interpersonal communication. That's right, talking to others is related to interpersonal communication. Lastly, for number 4, nonverbal. Alright, so it is related to eye contact because it is under of it, and when we say nonverbal, we are now using our mouth to talk to others. So that's all. That's a wrap, guys. I hope you understand well. Good day, students. Now for the second part of this video, I will be explaining the characteristics of good interpersonal communication. We have openness, gratefulness, empathy, positive attitude, and good listening skills. These characteristics are components that helps us to have an effective and meaningful conversation to someone that we should possess when we are communicating. Now, let's talk about the first characteristics, which is the openness. Openness in communication is the willingness to share and to be changed by the other. Like, it is the key to a relationship development of that also Openness is important to look at different perspective, like the others people view that might be different to your own. So judgment and insistent on your own points of view is a large barrier to open effective communication. You should always allow people to change to convince you of their ideas or point of view. Then let's proceed to the next characteristics, which is the gratefulness. When someone is shown that they are appreciated or valued by means of touching, mutual eye gazing, or smiling, gratitude expressions became more recognizable and effective in communication. So, gratefulness in communication shows that you care and that you appreciate him or her. This kind of appreciation is often reciprocated, especially if the thankfulness is genuine. So, while the third characteristic, which is the positive attitude, it is positive attitude that holds a key role in effective communication because it helps people to connect better and proves to be more empathic. Also, the importance of positive attitude in communication is the significant support that it brings to the process so you can reach the true purpose of your communication. It can help you to reach it while also maintaining or even improving the relationship that you have with other people that you are talking to. So, for the fourth characteristic, which is empathy, it is a need to communication because it is the ability to recognize emotion and to share perspective with other people to have an effective and good communication. Also, empathy involves accepting and allowing different perspective and emotion in other people and also sharing it with them to enable encouragement and support in communication. It's also the practice of actively listening in an effort to understand the emotion of who you're communicating with. And the last characteristic that we should involve in communication is good listening skills. So listening is one of the essential soft skills. It indicates a person's ability to receive and interpret information in the communication process. Without active listening skills, you won't be able to receive and interpret the message. To listen, no, we need to make a conscious effort not to just hear and what people are saying, but to take it in, digest it, and understand. Not only does listening enhance your ability to understand better and make you better communicator, it also makes the experience of speaking to you more enjoyable to other people. So, moreover, listening is key to all effective communication because without the ability to listen effectively, messages are easily misunderstood. As a result, communication breaks down and the sender of the message can easily become frustrated or irritated. That would be all for our discussion in this lesson, and now we're going to assess you guys and let's have an activity. Then now, let's proceed to our activity to assess if you really understood and applied the lesson for today. So, for the direction, we should read and analyze carefully the given dialogues for each situation. Then, choose the best response from the given option. So, let's start. For the first situation, you went to the market and met a strange woman asking for directions. The woman says, "Hi, I'm Sunshine. I moved in here last Wednesday. I am lost on my way to the nearest hospital. Would you mind if you will tell me how to get there?" What would be your response, class? Okay, let's see. Correct. It should be the letter A because it includes the characteristics of good communication and some strategies for effective communication. For the second situation, on the first day of school, someone approached you. Your classmate says, "Hi, I'm Jasmine. May I know your name? Can we be friends?" What would you do or what would be your response, class? Okay, let's see. Correct. it should be the letter B because, again, it includes the characteristics of good communication and some strategies for effective communication. For the third situation, your cousin is sick, your mother asks you to visit him, but you still have some homework to do. Your mother says, "Could you please make time to visit your cousin?" What would you do or what would be your response? Okay, let's see. Correct. It should be the letter A because, again, it includes the characteristics of good communication and some strategies for effective communication. That's a wrap, guys. We hope that you applied the objectives for today's lesson. That would be all about the communication. Thank you.